In this video, I'll show you how best to manage our Zoom sessions and set up your computer so that it's easier to follow along in class. So my first suggestion is to make sure to set up your computer 10 minutes before class starts. That involves logging into VMware if you need to, for those that don't have Excel on their own computers and need to connect to the MiraCosta College campus computers. Pull up any Excel files that you need. So every class we are working on a different chapter, and whatever chapter we're working on, there is usually an Excel file that goes with it. You should have your Airbnb city file ready somewhere on your desktop so that you can pull it up as needed. And I'll always let you know at the start of class if we're going to be working in that for that day. So you'll be ready to go. And you should have the Canvas page to our course open and scroll down to this week's module. That way it's easy to just navigate to something when I reference it. Another tip I have is to make sure to set up your screen to display both the Zoom session and our class materials, and I'll show you how to do that. This then will let you not have to toggle back and forth and maybe miss something that I'm showing on my screen while you're trying to do the same thing on your screen. And if you need help setting up, I recommend visiting me during office hours. I hold Zoom office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9:30 to 10:30 and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11. Although on Mondays and Wednesdays, I do try to pop over and set up our class session like around 10:20. So if you need help at 10:20, you might as well just join our class session via Zoom and ask me questions there. So on this screen right now, I actually have VMware already pulled up, and I always recommend pulling it up early prior to class because sometimes it takes a few minutes to load. And what you can see on my screen here, I've already downloaded my Airbnb city file for Montreal. So it's sitting there on my desktop. Whenever I need it, I can just pull it up. And then I've also downloaded the zip file that has the Excel resources for our entire course. So all of the chapter files are in there. I previously emailed out this zip file for download, but I'll also make sure it's available in Canvas if you ever need to go back to it. So I just want to show you how you can set this up in advance so it makes it easier when we're in class. So you can see I've downloaded the material onto the desktop, and this is the same if you're not in VMware. If you're on your own computer desktop, this is the same process. But I'll go ahead and open up the zip file, and it has the option to extract, which I do want it to. And what it's going to do then is, if I hit extract all, it's going to ask me where I want to extract it to. And I want to go ahead and have it onto my desktop because it's easier for me to access everything in one place. And I'll hit extract. And so what'll happen is it will move all of the Excel files into a regular folder on the desktop. And an extra step that I would actually recommend, and that I'm going to do myself right now, is I want to eliminate of having to go into the folder to find something. But if you like a clean desktop, maybe you can leave it in there. But I'm going to go ahead and actually pull all of these Excel files out onto the desktop. So I'm just going to select all the files and just drag and drop it right onto the main desktop right there. And then I can close this folder, and you can see the folder is now empty. Or if you want, you could have just copy and pasted them onto the desktop. That way you still have one set of Excel files on the desktop and another set of Excel files in the folder. Really just depends on how you want to manage things. And so when we're in class, and let's say the chapter of the day is chapter 5, I would go ahead and open up my chapter 5 Excel file and have that ready to go. And recall, you want to double check if there's enable editing up at the top. If there is, you make sure to click that. That way it will let you work in the Excel file. And then I can also make this bigger or smaller as needed. So I've got my Excel open, whether it's directly on your computer or through VMware, for instance. I also recommend having your Canvas page pulled up. And it kind of depends on your situation. If you've got the Excel files all ready to go, downloaded where you need it to, then you can open up Canvas wherever is most convenient for you, whether that's directly on your computer or on the VMware side. Just note though, if it's on the VMware side, it's going to be a little bit slower. So if you can open it on your main computer side, that's great. But again, that assumes you have everything downloaded and ready to go over on the VMware side already, like you saw on the desktop here. So that allows me to get to things pretty quickly. So I'll just open up my Excel file again. So let me go ahead and log into Canvas. Going to our course. So once we're in Canvas, I always just go to the weekly modules, but you can also enter it through the modules on the left here. So I'll click in, and then I'll just navigate down to the week module that applies. Now note, due to security reasons, to join our Zoom class, I will now be putting the link directly in the module here. And so you would just click here to join our Zoom session. And I'll do that right now so you can see how that works. But again, having the Canvas page open and ready to go to the module that we are working on will just make it easier when I say, hey, let's go ahead and take a look at this link. You have it right in front of you. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Zoom session. So you can see it launches. And I say yes. And so once I've joined the Zoom session here, you can see the professor's screen. I'm logged in on a different computer, so I'm trying to model what it looks like for a student. So right here, this is the Zoom screen that would be hosted by me, for instance, and it is full screen. So then let me show you how I would set up the screen just so I can see everything at once. Go ahead and double click on the Zoom session, and what that'll do is it'll take it out of full screen. And dragging any of the corners, I can make it a little bit smaller, but I still want to be able to see the words and what's going on. And I would just move that a little bit here. I would probably take my Canvas and just tuck it down here. And I can always just hide it behind by clicking back on the Zoom. And then for my Excel file, whether you're in VMware or not VMware, it's the same process. I would make that window also a little bit smaller, and then just maybe to the right here. And then that way, as I'm working in Excel, but also watching what the professor is doing on Zoom, then I can have it side by side. That's one way to do it. Or even you can just have it literally split screen in half and have it side by side like this. I'm just dragging it that way. And so I think this is probably the easiest way, is if you just have the Zoom on the left and then the Excel file on the right. And so as I'm showing you how to do something, you can just follow along and you don't have to toggle back and forth between the screens and maybe miss something that happened. So this is probably the best way I would recommend doing it. Let me just clear that out. And then if I need to pull something real quick, right, I've got Canvas down below and I just click on it and then open it as needed or go to it. But since we're working so much in Excel, I think the two main things that you really want to have available is the Zoom session on one side and the Excel file on the other side. And that way you can follow along more easily. And then towards the end of class, when we finish, I always recommend saving your work. And so I'm hitting save and I can close. And then again, if you're on VMware, you can see here's the desktop on the VMware side. I was working in a particular file, I saved it, it'll get saved there. If you're on your personal computer, same idea. After you finish working in the Excel file, save it to wherever you want to have it saved on your personal device. And then you can always review what we've done in class through the recorded Zoom sessions, or through the Excel videos that I post in Canvas. And anytime you have questions, just let me know.